19 July 2022. Mic test. 19 July 2022. Mic test. Mic test 1 2 3. Mic test 1 2 3.
The time is now 7 o'clock and I will officially open and welcome everyone to this evening's agenda briefing forum. This evening is not a decision-making forum, it is the briefing on the agenda for the Ordinary Council meeting, which will be held next Tuesday, the 26th of July 2022. Please note this meeting is being live streamed. I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we are meeting, the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation, and pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging. No councillors are on leave of absence this evening. Councillor Peterson-Pick and Councillor Sutherland have provided apologies and Councillor Maleka is attending via electronic means. Has anyone heard from Councillors Clark or Bull? No. This evening, we have one deputation in relation to item 10.3.1. Mr. John Williams will be in attendance, speaking in support of the officer's recommendation. Mr. Williams, please come forward, and I'll just remind you that you have 5 minutes to make a presentation and councillors may have questions afterwards. I'll just put the microphone.
Okay. Sorry. Thank you, Mayor and councillors, for giving me the opportunity to do this deputation. Firstly, I'd like to mention that Lightning Swamp bushland is the only remnant seasonal wetlands emerging with natural Banksia woodlands in the city of Bayswater, and likely one of the last surviving few in the Perth metropolitan area. Furthermore, as we confront the increasing impacts of urbanisation, climate, habitat loss, pollution, etc., contributing to biodiversity loss, which threatens the health of highly valued ecological communities, it also is a time when many young children do not have the opportunities or abilities of learning to live with nature, nor can they develop the important skills and lifelong experiences to connect with natural environments as we fortunately drew upon when growing up. The item presented to Council is a small step towards helping children gain these skills and connections to not only benefit their mental well-being, but build a healthy respect of the importance of our natural surroundings and environments. In relation to the item up for discussion tonight, could I please make a request to amend the use of the term education centre to nature-based learning space? In addition, if I could further clarify, the two infrastructures planned for the site are both detachable and fit for purpose to provide, firstly, shelter, an interactive learning space, secure storage of educational tools and activity mechanisms, water, toilet facility, and lastly, to identify the use of the site. Importantly, to let community know what this site is all about. Lastly, given the long history of the group to develop nature-based education and community awareness at the A-Class site, we'd be very grateful and thankful if Council could give support to item 10.3.1. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll just ask if councillors have any questions for you. Are there any questions? And if you do, I'll just ask if you've got any interest to disclose on this item, if you could disclose it. Councillor Johnson.
Thank you for your deputation. I just wanted to check, sorry, you said something about that your request was for the facility to be detachable and fit for purpose. Is that the proposal in here? Does that meet the criteria that you're supporting?
Yes. It's probably just the wording in there is transportable and transportable building. But what I mean by detachable is that it's not a permanent built structure, so that changes can be made or improvements can be done, or we can change the site if that ever came to the case that was necessary.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Yeah.
Councillor Palmer.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And thank you, Mr. Williams, for all the times that you've spent there, which is a lifetime. I'm just looking at the design, and there were toilets on either side of the structure. And I'm wondering, as it is maybe transferable in transition, it could be moved, how advantageous that is for you, or would it be better if those ablutions that are in the Lightning Swamp Sports Recreation Centre could be made available instead of the difficulty of getting toilets and sewerage and everything at the site? What would be your preference?
Yeah, look, in all honesty, we've encountered problems with accessing that Lightning Park facility. I even strangely, I had my car broken into and had keys that I've had since the centre was built.
Yes.
And that was part of the agreement that we would have access.
Yes.
Because over time we've made a lot of sacrifices that probably some of you councillors would not be aware of, that we've given up for that Lightning Park facility. We're in a situation now where the area that we are using as a site has come under extreme fire regime restrictions, which we are working with, and we should successfully, get through that. But some of that land was for us to use, and we actually gave that land up for parking area because it impacted on Lightning Swamp bushland. This is just one of the factors. But anyway, going back to a thing there, I'm unable to get access into the Lightning Park Recreational Centre. I have been given access to a changing room, and when you're dealing with young kids, I'm talking from 4 to 7, the condition of those change rooms for those kids, and as well as that, getting those kids from that area where we are to those change rooms has become an ongoing nuisance. And this is not just myself, but these are the teachers as well that are working with me at the moment. We are doing we are carrying out work there, and having one of the school classes attend. To resolve that, we thought, look, and having on-site toilets for such young children would be advantageous and be easily maintained by us, and basically not have this issue with the Lightning Park Recreation Centre. Why I don't know. Why it's built for community, but we seem to not be able to get any of the accesses that we would like to it. So I'll leave it at that. But yes, that's the reason why we're having the toilets there. But we expect to have, as things become more entrenched with the site, we expect that we will, have weekend workshops, not regularly, in collaboration with the City of Bayswater. It's already been talked with the environmental section, and DBCA are working with us. Will work with us as well, and we've got an organisation over east that wants to work with us here. So it's just opening your minds up to what could be achieved with such a type of area that we have, and what could be achieved in bringing it out into nature, in an open area. So yeah.
Any other questions, councillors? No. Thank you very much for your deputation, Mr. Williams.
Thank you.
We'll now be asking councillors if they have questions on this item. Firstly, to the officers. Are there any questions on this item? 10.3.1 for the officers. Councillor Palmer.
Thank you very much. Just wondering, I looked at the costs and so forth, which seem to be fairly acceptable, but I couldn't see the costs for the connection for electric power or maybe all the utilities, which includes the deep sewage that would be needed. I wonder if we've got any idea of what that is, please.
I'll go to the director.
Yeah, can I pass that on to the manager? He'll be able to answer that.
Through the chair, there haven't been any costs included because any of the associated connection costs for services would fall to the Friends of Group as they take on this lease. As flagged in the report, some of the services costs might have a level of expense associated with them based on the location of existing infrastructure. For example, access to sewerage is some distance away.
Thank you. Have you got any idea of cost in mind for these services, please?
No, sorry, we don't have any specifics. We didn't do any estimates on that.
An approximate? Is it 50,000, 20?
Look, I really couldn't give any certainty around that broadly. We're saying it's more than 1,000, but less than 50,000. But would really need to get specific quotes on designs and options for that.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions? Councillor Sosowski?
Thank you. In the budget papers, there are 3 mentions of Lightning Park with line items. One of them is $750,000, one of them is $13,000, and one of them is $30,000. Are any of these line items here associated with any of the costs or anything to do with the project that we're hearing about at the moment?
Through the chair, not to my knowledge.
Any other questions on this item? No? Mr. Williams, in case you'd like to leave. That's it. Thank you. So, councillors, I'll now go to the next item that I've been advised there's questions on, and that's item 8.4.1, Conference Report, Australian Local Government National General Assembly. Councillor Johnson has questions.
Thank you. Thank you for the report and all the things that you all got up to. I think at the conference there was a whole lot of things to be voted on. There's 99 items. I'm just wondering about where they fitted into the agenda or the report. There's from their equivalent of the AGM.
I'll go to the CEO.
Thank you. Sorry, I missed the question.
So there's a number of items to be voted in, I think, like an AGM. I was wondering, is that part of this conference?
The ALGA AGM.
The motions that were voted on.
Yes, there were a number of motions. I have information on what was passed and what wasn't. If you would like me to forward those, I'm happy to do that.
Yeah, thank you. That'd be interesting.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions on this item? Deputy Mayor?
So thank you. I just wanted to note that, and I have passed it through to the minute taker, but I'm not sure if it's appropriate to add on a line for the report that was missed off tonight or next week. I spoke with Mr. CEO about it last night.
So you'd like to edit the report?
Yeah, it's just for that inclusion of that of the other minister that was left off of that.
Could certainly include that.
Yeah,
Chair.
so tonight or next week, or when's appropriate.
Yes, we can change it.
Okay, I've already emailed it through to the minute taker. So that was just that the Mayor and Deputy Mayor met Minister Ed Husic, Member for Chifley, Minister for Industry and Science. And I'll just comment about the AGM as well. I think there were, from memory, it was 102 motions and 3 were from WA.
And I'll just say I've sought advice about whether I need to declare an interest in this, and the advice is that I don't have to declare an interest in this item. So I just want that on the record. So the next item that I've been advised of is item 10.2.3, Councillor Johnson, financial reports for the period ended 30 June.
Thank you very much. I'll try and find where I had all my questions. But essentially, there's underspends and overspends in lots of areas. We're seeing this in the context of a recently adopted budget, and this is our final, sort of almost finalised reports for the year. Just wondering, to what extent some of them have been taken over to next year, and to what extent, or this current financial year, and to what extent some of those unders and overs will be, absorbed up into reserves. So, for example, if I look at the summary of the variances on page 52, under recreation and culture, we had additional income of about $774,000. So, if we increase the expected income that we're expecting from those facilities in the coming financial year?
I'll go to the director.
Through the chair, if I answer that question a bit more generally, so this report that we've got is obviously to June, but it's not the complete picture, and there's still a couple of weeks more processing of transactions. We're expecting to finalise the accounts in probably about a couple of weeks from now. So next week I'll be able to bring you a more up-to-date picture of where we will be. But we have reviewed all our carry forwards as we presented last night, and there doesn't appear to be much change in those. So any of the information we provided through that budget process is still reflective of where we will end up at the end of the year. But I'm happy to bring more detail if you'd like next week, which is more clearer picture.
Thank you. So I guess in particular I'm interested in, on page 55, we've got an underspend in purchases of construction, infrastructure, property, plant and equipment of around $10 million. So I guess I'd just like to know, it's a big number in context of our rates. So just want to know an update on that most specifically. And can I ask just a question, and I can take it, you can take it on notice as well. On page 52, it talks about there's a $151,000 variance on Maylands Underground Power Project revenue not received yet. What's that in relation to?
Through the chair, that's to do with the actual undergrounding of power in Maylands. That's been basically the project's still sitting with Western Power. That was to basically to get some of the funds to start some of the modelling and the work that needs to be done in terms of determining how it's going to be funded and delivered. And but that work hasn't occurred yet because the project's still sitting with Western Power.
We've done some work and they're going to pay us for it. Is that what that means?
As I understand, that's the case, yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, that's all I had.
Are there any other questions on this item from councillors? No? We'll now move on to item 10.3.1, lightning. Oh, we've done that one. Item 10.3.2, the tender for the supply and delivery of irrigation pipes and fittings. Councillor Johnson.
Thank you. I just have a question about one word on page 88, where they talk about, and thank you for including a statement on conflicts of interest. And just wondering, it says on the last paragraph of legislative compliance, it says the city officers do not have any significant conflicts of interest. That's sort of, yeah, when we declare conflicts of interest like we have or we haven't. So can I just get an explanation, please, what that means?
I'll go to the director.
Yeah, through the chair, I suppose with any tenders or any involvements that staff have with these sorts of tenders and procurement, they need to declare if they've got some sort of interest, like anybody else in the organisation, and it's basically saying that there isn't any with those staff.
So there's no conflict of interest. So is that statement not quite correct?
I'd say there's nothing that's reportable. In terms of officers, obviously do go and purchase items and do deal with these suppliers and tenderers, but it doesn't necessarily mean they have a conflict of interest.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions on this item? We'll now move on to the next one being item so Councillor Johnson, you had a query about 10.5.2, which is under separate cover. Has that been answered for you now?
Yeah, thank you. I just wondered when we'd get details on that one and also on 14.1.1.
Do you need a response to that now, or you've...
It's fine, I understand they're under separate cover.
Yep.
And they'll be provided in due course. Thank you.
Okay. So that's all the items that have been flagged by councillors as having any questions. Is there anything else that... No? Are there any... Do councillors have any questions on any of the other items? Councillor Johnson?
Perhaps I could take the opportunity while we have people here to talk about it. So 10.5.1, the Community Recreation Plan final draft. Perhaps we could have maybe a summary or some highlights pointed out to us.
I'll go to the director.
Yeah, through the chair, if the manager or the advisor could come and provide that. Rec planner, sorry.
Sorry, we missed the specific question because we were observing something happening outside. Can you just repeat the question, please?
Sure. I hope everything's okay. We need to...
It's not.
Yeah.
He doesn't actually look okay at all. Brett's with him. They've just laid him down on the couch.
I'll adjourn the
Maybe,
meeting
yeah.
for 5 minutes, please, if that's okay. So we'll resume the meeting at 7:27. Please go ahead.
Thanks. So the community recreation plan will guide community recreation and sporting participation and provision of facilities and infrastructure across the city in the short, medium and long term. So we've compiled the plan to be a 10-year plan that's reviewable every 5 years. So included is sports and recreation reserves, built facilities on sporting reserves, sport and community infrastructure such as fencing, goalposts, nets, courts, skate park, public toilets. Not included is lease facilities for purposes other than recreation, libraries, play spaces because we've developed the play space strategy previously, facilities that are on private land and golf courses. And then just to note that major facilities like Bayswater Waves, Morley Sport and Rec have their own individual management plans as well. So the plan will ensure consistency across all branches internally. We'll integrate, as I said, short, medium and long-term facility and infrastructure projects into the city's budgets and into the long-term financial plan. It'll support groups and clubs to provide sport and recreation opportunities to the community and also improve physical activity and participation in sport and recreation. So we've done extensive desktop research and extensive engagement with both participants, clubs and the broader community to develop that, I guess, into a number of drafts and iterations that have been presented to council at various workshops and forums throughout the journey, and also to test those drafts both with the clubs, focus groups throughout the process, and most recently to put a final draft out to community engagement just to receive final community feedback. So we're now at a stage where the final draft has been prepared for council consideration and hopefully endorsement.
Thank you. Can I ask a question? Like, it seems to me from the feedback that most people, and I think it says this in the report, so forgive me if I'm wrong, that most of the sport and recreation that people do in our community is like individual rather than organised through groups. And I'm just wondering how this plan sort of addresses that, or if we need to take a different tack in funding recreation.
I can respond to that one. So in the first phase of engagement, we recognise that we have differences in terms of recreation pursuits between clubs and groups and then community members. So we have a lot of people who love our parks, exercise outdoors, and the trends that we were starting to see both nationally and statewide and also locally were that large number of people were actually engaging in individual physical activity. And we wanted to look a bit more closely at that because we also know that on the other end of that spectrum that we have so many clubs and groups, a lot of whom are growing, but overall we're aware of this national trend in terms of organised sport that is kind of plateauing. So we really had to balance those two quite stark, contrasting drivers, I suppose, in terms of how we wanted to put this plan together, because we didn't want it to be an organised sport plan that then disregarded the needs and the trends that we were seeing. So hence we put out two surveys. One for community members, tell us what activity you do, tell us where you do it, tell us why you do it, and tell us how we can improve that. And then we had a club survey as well, which is where we got overwhelming feedback that we've now transformed into those actions largely about our facilities and our ageing infrastructure. What we were understanding from the community equally as well was that pathways, river foreshore, larger reserves, walking dogs, riding bikes were the standout physical activities and pursuits that we were hearing from the community from. So that's how, I guess, because we heard that in the first phase of engagement, that's how the plan came to be how it is, because we tried to get that balance so we weren't excluding one group over the other. Hope that answers your question.
No, that's really interesting. It's helpful. Thank you.
Councillor Palmer?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm just wondering, it's sort of on the final leg of our skateboard park, if that's also been beautifully included in the recreational thing that we have here. If it's been expanded on rather than just a skate and scooter to reserves.
I think because, like the skate park, like Maylands Waterland, projects that were already very much progressing, I suppose we didn't make reference to them necessarily. We looked at the broader provision around skate and bike specifically, because that was one of the biggest trends that there isn't a lot of participation data for a start, which is an issue, not just for us, for many local governments. So we were noticing that, and we wanted to focus on how we can fulfil those demands and meet that community need in different ways, and not just zero in completely on the skate park, but acknowledging that it is very much underway and that it will be a fantastic facility. But we were actually looking broader than that at the provision across the city, because we keep being asked for local and neighbourhood skate spots that don't need to be a fully fledged $1 million skate park. So we will be focusing on those just as much as well. And we also have the skate and BMX plan that's in the budget for this financial year that we'll be looking at to give us a strategy.
But I can't see it in this report. You know, to me, it's a very valuable entity, and there's not that much in it. I'm wondering if that can be an addendum or something. I'd like to see a little bit more in that.
So the question is whether it can be an addendum?
Yes.
I'll ask the Director.
I'm not sure exactly what you're asking to be an addendum. I suppose if you look at the report on page 198, it talks about the developing a skate and BMX plan. So that would look at all alternate sites in consideration of the sites that are there as well.
I couldn't see.
Councillor Palmer, within page 5, within the actual community rec plan, we've also noted projects that are currently underway, and the development of the skate park, noting that it'll feature the biggest half pipe in WA is included in the report.
Okay.
Page 5 of the actual community rec plan document. What we can do is take that on notice and provide you all the specific information that's in both the council report and the community rec plan document that's relating to skate park and BMX facilities.
And I think this is what Councillor Georgia Johnson was aiming at, was trying to get a summarising before we actually get into the depths of it. And that's why a summary is really good. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. Sorry, through the chair to the officers, just please refresh my memory and correct me if I'm wrong. I seem to recall that in the SABDAC committee meetings this was discussed and at length, and that's why it was a separate strategy, and that this plan would reference that there is a separate strategy because it didn't really sit in that with the parameters.
So it is noted within the actions of the community rec plan to develop the skate and BMX strategy.
But this was discussed several times at SABDAC, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Any other questions, councillors? I've just got a question, just on the point that was made about there was quite contrasting views from organised sport or recreation to individual recreation. Is that what I heard correctly? And I'm just trying to see where that view formed, because I understand there were 2 phases of engagement. The first phase was back in early 2021, And am I correct in thinking, it's not specifically here, but if I read where it says 196 participants from the first phase of engagement was sent a direct email. So are we saying the first phase we had 196 responses as part of the engagement?
So we had 196 respondents to the community survey. We then had 26 clubs and groups complete the club survey. So approximately between 220 and 230 in total.
In phase one?
In phase one, correct, yes.
So out of that 200, so the conclusion about the need for pathways and river foreshores and large open spaces and all that, that's from that group, the 220, 30 people?
From the results of the community survey, yes. The
Yes.
results of the club survey were overwhelmingly from clubs who were suffering from facilities that are no longer fit for purpose. Largely, they need to cater for female participants.
Yeah.
Accessibility challenges, and they were the things that came out from the clubs and groups who are using our facilities.
Okay. And was that feedback in the stage 2? In phase 2?
No, same phase,
Same
two
phase.
surveys.
So phase 1 had 2 separate surveys, and then phase 2 was just for the organised clubs.
No, phase 2 was for the draft summary that we put out to absolutely everybody who had engaged. So 200 and I don't have the exact number, but everybody who engaged with us in the first phase, clubs, groups, community members, everybody
had the opportunity.
Had the opportunity, correct, yes.
Okay. And out of that, only 10 surveys were completed?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. I just want to understand. Any other questions on this? No, thank you. Oh, sorry, Councillor Johnson does.
It's all right. It's not a question, Sacha. I'm just wondering if the action plan that's presented in the report, I'm wondering if I can just get a printout of that because it's a bit hard to read the side-by-side pages.
I think that can be done. Thank you. Councillors, are there any questions on any other items? If there's nothing else, I will close the meeting at 7:40. Thanks, everyone. Bye, Suntal. I think she's frozen.